Alright, let's have a look at a technique you can use to figure out why your character is doing some motion on the first few frames. So if I play this guy, you'll notice that, well, it's quite subtle, but his backpack is moving, and also his fingers are spreading. So if I zoom in on the fingers, we can have a look. You notice that on the first frame, they sort of splay apart, and for the backpack, it sort of separates, translates out from the body, which causes this ripple through the tether on the back. So what you can do is you can have a look at why, like what's happening on the first frame. If you go to the solver, you can enable the draw contacts, and that when you hit play now, it will show you these red dots, and the red dots are where contacts are happening. And really on the ground, you can see that there are a number of contacts, and these are fine. He's standing on the ground, and in response to the ground sort of pushing up on him, he's probably intersecting slightly with the ground. That's why these are happening. But so the ground is pushing him up, and that's normally fine. Especially if you do have gravity, then the contacts will be persistent, as the gravity will keep him sort of pushed towards the ground. But the fingers also have contacts, and you can sort of see where these are happening. So there's some self-intersections going on between the fingers. And likewise for the backpack, there's some intersections going on towards the bottom. So let's have a look at how we can address these. They will have two different solutions to them. For the fingers, what I would do is I would start by having a look at the geometry itself, or probably the markers. Let's actually go into the manipulator. And if I have a look here, we can see that between these two shapes here, it looks as though there is some self-collisions. So I would give these an overlap group. So this already has an overlap group of 5, so does this one, but the knuckle does not. So I suspect that the knuckle, if not this knuckle, are the ones that are involved in this self-collision. You can see how they splay apart. So if I give this one a 5 as well, that looks fine, and we can see that there's no collisions anymore between those guys. And then likewise for this one, maybe 5, because I think these all have an overlap group of 5. So I'll just give this one a 5 as well, and that one probably a 5 as well, and this one a 5. And I think at this point, oh, there's still one more. So there's still something going on in there. If we go back and have a look, 5, 5, 5. Oh, this one doesn't have 5. So it does mean that the middle part, these fingers, like the middle section, can't collide. They will overlap now, but I would argue that's probably fine. If you were to sort of unsplay his fingers, the tips would collide, which would keep the hand from sort of collapsing in on itself. But these would be allowed to overlap, and I think that's probably fine. So that solves the finger issue. Let's have a look at the backpack. For this one, it's a bit trickier because there's a lot of stuff going on here. We don't want to give the backpack a different, an overlap group which is the same as the body, because we want the backpack to sort of, it still needs to be attached to the body. It shouldn't overlap with the body, because let's say if he falls onto the ground, the body would then intersect with the backpack. We sort of want the backpack to still collide. So I would imagine in this case, it's probably a better option to make sure that the geometry itself isn't actually self-intersecting on the start frame. So for that, let's have a look at the geometry. Just move this to the side. And I would imagine that we could either adjust the backpack. So let's start there. We'll just select some faces. And as I sort of shrink the backpack to try and avoid that contact, you can see that there's still some contacts going on. Maybe the body also needs to be adjusted somewhat. If I grab these and just move these in a little, and that looks like that did it. So now we don't have any, now there's a gap, maybe probably too big of a gap, but at least we haven't gotten those self-collisions anymore. So now the only thing making him move on the start frame, because you can see there's still some slight motion when I hit play, it's coming from the feet. And you could, because he is in space, he's probably not even standing on the ground. You could probably remove the ground or lower it or raise the feet just so that there's absolutely no contact with itself on the start frame. And so now, because there is no gravity and because all of the limbs start within their limit, there's nothing to cause this character to move. So this would be a clean setup, a good starting point.